Hello and welcome to the show. I'm Tosh Taylor.
And I'm Jenna Morden. And today we are diving into one of our favorite topics, books.
Oh yeah, but more specifically, we're going to be talking about New Brunswick authors, New Brunswick books, and I'm excited, so let's get started.
Yes, and specifically today I pulled out a bunch of books from our shelf that are tied to kind of that, I would say 10 to 12-year-old reading audience. They're perfect for any age. Like, these are books that I have read and absolutely love. And so they work really well as like a family read along, or if you're looking for something just to really kind of, entice those kids that are in that middle range. You know, we've talked, our kids are around those ages now, and getting them to read when they're little wasn't a big struggle. As they get older, they get in this weird zone where like books aren't quite, there's not enough books written for that age category.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's what I'm trying
It
to
is, it's hard to keep their attention. I know that my 10-year-old, she is reading the Harry Potter series, but the books are this big. So, you know, she'll read a chapter or two, take a break, but she goes to graphic novels, I find, more than not, but she'll read a graphic novel in 30 minutes, like I think most kids do, right? Like they can whip right through them.
Yeah, and they're great. It's wonderful that they're reading.
Yes.
It's just that you go through them so quickly that you're like, we need something else. And so one of those things that can really help draw, I think, kids in, it certainly draws me in, is when the story is local. So the first one we're going to talk about is a book that we have talked about a little bit on the show before, Chocolate River Rescue, which, of course, obviously by its title, set right here in the Greater Moncton area with the Chocolate River as kind of the main character, really, in the story. Because what happens is a group of young kids actually end up on an ice floe going down the river and need to be rescued. So there's a lot of, that kind of nice tension in the book. It's really well written. The story is based on something that actually happened.
That was my next question. Okay.
Yeah. And what I really, really love about this, and what we've talked about once before, I think, on the show, is the fact that there's an audiobook version of this. And so what my family did when the kids were a little bit younger, we listened to the book as we drove along the river from all the way from Alma up to Riverview.
Love it.
Fantastic. Because my kids are like, wait, no, but they're talking about right here.
Yeah.
Yes. Not only is it a good story, it's a good story set right here where you can look at the river.
Yeah, you can physically see it, which I think that's really cool. Also super dangerous, kids. Stay away from the river.
Yes, there's a lot of good life lessons in the book. And if you enjoy Chocolate River Rescue, then you will enjoy, I have it upside down there, White Cave Escape is the follow-up book. So it takes place in the same general area and with the same group of kids. This one, I don't believe, is based on something that actually happened. I believe this one is completely fictional.
Just going to scan the back there.
I'm scanning the back there, Jennifer. I'm sure Jennifer McGrath can reach out and let me know if I'm wrong about that.
Because Jennifer McGrath is a Moncton-based author.
Yes. Oh, yeah. And she's still writing. She's putting out fantastic books. A lot of her more recent books are little kid kind of books. She's got a wonderful one that just came out about pugs and traffic jams.
I'm in.
Oh, my goodness. And a couple of years ago, The Snow Knows, this beautiful illustrated children's book about a fox. It's just absolutely gorgeous. She's Gadzooks, the Christmas Goose. Many fantastic books. You should have all of her books on your shelf. Whether or not you have children. If you live in New Brunswick, you should have all her books.
That's true. Support local. That's the most important thing.
Yes, that's a whole other conversation that we've also had before that we could spend an entire episode on again. But we're going to talk about books. So I'm going to move on to the next set of books.
Yeah, these are neat looking.
These are some of my favorites. Oh, I've got them backwards because if you're holding them this way, they're in order. So first comes Were Duck.
Were Duck.
Were Duck. The sequel to Were Duck is Cure for Were Duck and the Were Duck Code. So these books are very close to my heart because they're written by Dave Atkinson, who is a friend of mine.
Oh, no way.
Dave is he's the best in so many ways. My husband keeps saying if they ever want to do a reboot of the Vinyl Cafe, Dave Atkinson should be the host because he has done books. I have seen him do musical performances. He has a podcast out now that's it's a D&D adventure. It's just, he's brilliant.
So
He's so good.
off camera, you were telling me that you were the kid that used to write to authors that you really loved when you were younger. Is that how you became friends with Dave, or?
No, Dave and I used to work together. Dave,
neat.
This is Dave from down the hall. Dave at the office down the hall. We were both journalists at CBC.
Okay, cool.
And yeah, Dave has 3 kids and a lovely wife. They live in PEI now, but they did for a brief time live in New Brunswick, and Dave was kind enough to set the Were Duck trilogy mostly here in New Brunswick, which is what some of these tabs are. I was pointing out to my children, if you're looking at the video of this, you'll see the tabs in the books. So in the original book, Were Duck, of the trilogy, on page 18, I'm like, oh dear, I think I need to get glasses. Page 18, there we go. You'll see that Dirk is talking about a little thing called the McNeil-Morton Report.
It's you!
So Dave wrote this around the time of our wedding. And
No
he thought
way.
our names worked so well together. It's actually the name of a government report that had come out that's part of the storyline of the book. But the McNeil-Morton Report, there's a shout out to Boundary Creek in here as well.
Oh my God, you're famous. I love it.
Anyway, if you have kids who are into kind of a little bit of supernatural that's not scary, Were Duck is really fun. It's also great if you've got kids who are kind of going into that puberty phase. It's not overly like, it's not, are you there, God, it's me, Margaret, but it hits some of those kind of points as well, and they're so fun.
I like
So
it.
fun.
I mean, if you can come up with a name like Were Duck on your own, they've got to be good.
Oh yeah, and they're just so many good things about those books.
So many good things. Okay, what else do you have there? Because this, do we want to go to this one? Because this is a beautiful, it's called The Frame Up.
This is one of the most beautiful books. There is another version of it out there with a different cover that I think is meant to appeal more to what people like to see on covers right now, and I'm just like, oh, please do yourself the favor and get this beautiful hardcover version with this dust jacket that has this beautiful gilded frame around it. So this is a book by Wendy McLeod McKnight, who I only kind of discovered last year. I think she put on a workshop here in Moncton through the Fry Festival. She has a couple books out, but this one just captured my heart. Oh my goodness, she's lovely. And her work is fantastic, but this one in particular, the frame up, on the back here, there's this beautiful portrait of a young woman. So this is a portrait that actually hangs in the Beaverbrook Art Gallery.
No way, okay.
In Fredericton. Huh. And the story is about how the paintings come to life.
That's
the paintings come to life when people are not there, right? Which, like, tale as old as time, but also just so curious and thoughtful. And think of all these things that these different characters in these paintings here in New Brunswick could do. And then, of course, there's a whole storyline that draws in the young boy who's the curator's son, and there's a mystery, and it hits so many points. It's so well written, and it's just these beautiful images of all these paintings that you can then go to the Beaverbrook Art Gallery in Fredericton and walk through and look at. Which again, like when you have that touchstone of a local place or a local thing that you can tie in, like what a great book to read, with your family over the next couple weeks, and then over March break.
Right.
Go visit the art gallery, or read this over the course of the year and make that part of a summer getaway that you're going to go up and go to the gallery. And sometimes kids are into that idea. Sometimes there have been times when my kids have been okay with going to the art gallery. There have been times when I got the, oh, that sounds so boring kind of faces. Yeah, but if it'd be like, hey, are we going to go see that painting in the store? Oh, yeah, because it's a really great story. Like I said, there's another one called Copycat, which also has a really kind of neat fantastical, I guess, is the word I'm looking for. So if you have a kid who likes that kind of like touch of supernatural that's not scary, definitely look up Wendy McLeod McKnight's books.
Okay. All right.
And you want that on your shelf. It's just beautiful.
And well, that too. Aesthetically, it's amazing.
It's gorgeous.
So how many, I have to ask, you said you've read them all, but your kids and your oldest, I know, is a big reader. So how many has Clara devoured of these?
Of these, maybe about half of them.
Okay.
Because she is kind of stuck in that like, I'd rather just go with a graphic novel. That looks too big.
It is a big book. That's why I was asking.
It is, but like, so this version of the frame up, there's a couple panels in it where it shows you the paintings that she's talking about. So things like that help draw in the interest when you have someone who's a little reticent to dive in.
Yeah, and you can go back and reference. I still, as a 40-year-old, love doing that in a book. I like to go back and reference, even if they like put a family tree at the beginning of the book or whatever.
Yeah, nice little map.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Like just kind of keeps you there. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, who's next?
All right, over here we have Riel Nason's The Town That Drowned. So Riel, again, another fantastic New Brunswick author who has books for little kids, books for older kids, books for grown-ups. This one just, it was so captivating. So she won the Commonwealth Book Prize in Canada and Europe for this one, and it's sort of based on when they built a dam and what happened in New Brunswick, but not really.
Okay.
But it's just enough that you could make those historical connections with New Brunswick and things that have happened here in the past, or you can just read it as it is and not really dive into all of that. I think it's just, again, there's so many neat little moments in this book in terms of how the characters interact and, you know, what's happening with this girl as she's kind of in that young adult stage, but that is very family friendly. You could read it with, you know, kind of any group. I don't want to give things away.
Yeah,
I want to tell you everything about the book, and I want to tell you nothing about the book.
That's fair. I'm gonna go with the nothing, but yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, this was originally published in 2011. Yeah, 2011. This is the anniversary edition that I picked up. So, because I wasn't, well, I guess I was living here when it came out.
Oh, you were in the depths of babies then.
Yeah, I was just getting into babies. I wasn't quite thinking about what they were going to be reading as young adults yet, other than books that I had read and saved. Still they're on my shelf, and I'm slowly getting rid of because they're not reading them now.
Oh no!
That's a whole other topic.
Yeah.
But I really, as someone who didn't grow up in New Brunswick, I really enjoyed reading The Town That Drowned because it gave me a little bit of insight of what it might have been like to have grown up here, you know, maybe 10, 15, 20 years older than I am kind of thing. And again, there's this little bit of a hint of supernatural, but not, it's more kind of a like visionary type thing. And, you know, is this really a vision of the future and what's happening? So again, it ties into that interest, but not in a scary, ghosty, you know, werewolf, even wereduck, even though it's werewolf type, it's not scary.
Right.
Because I think that's something I know for all three of my kids right now. They like that idea of, I want something that's a bit of a thriller, a bit of a mystery, a bit supernatural, but it can't actually be scary.
Right.
And it can't actually be like a real murder mystery, even though that's what they think they want.
Well, remember us at their age? We would have just been getting into like Fear Street and
Christopher Pike and R.L. Stein.
Christopher
and
Pike.
This is what I have stacks of still on my bookshelf at home. But that, it's a little, those books are skewed a little bit older.
A little bit, yeah.
Than these. So this is perfect if you, have a reader who's not ready for scary things, but wants a little bit of a storyline along that. You're going to find it in
not
like
quite
all of
Goosebumps.
these. No.
My oldest even finds Goosebumps too freaky for her yet. Like that's.
And
I'm fine with that. She doesn't need to read them.
no, but something like the frame up, like there is that intrigue and there's a bit of supernatural, but it's not as gory or scary as some of those books that were really popular when we were younger.
Right. Yeah. Okay, you've got one last book on the pile here.
Yes.
So who do we have?
So this one is The Lookout Tree, the English translation of it, by Diane Carmelagier. She's got several books, and again, I'm Anglophone, I can't read French, so I know there's a lot of really great French books about New Brunswick as well by New Brunswick authors. There's a really great series of the ones about the the lake monster and UFOs, and there's a whole series that look super fun. They're beyond me to read. I'm sorry to say, they are also perfect for this age group.
But our kids would be able to read them. So.
Yes. So they have been starting to. I've been trying to get some of those in. But Nimbus Publishing has English versions of a few of Diane's books, who also has some really great picture books for little kids as well.
Oh, cool.
There's one called My Two Grandmothers that's really sweet. But what I really like about, so the Lookout Tree, and there's also Piau's Potato Present, which I forgot to grab off the shelf. Talk about the Acadian expulsion and everything that really did happen here with New Brunswick history. And it's I think it's a really great historical read, a really important read, but told in such a wonderful way for that early reader group. But it's also, again, for someone, especially like, you and I, neither of us grew up in New Brunswick, although even my husband and your husband who grew up here didn't get as much or didn't retain as much as they should have from what they might have learned. Reading books like this, even as an adult, I was like, oh, okay, I'm starting to get a broader sense of what happened and the intricacies of things. There's so much about what happened with the Acadian population in New Brunswick that really does read like the most historical fantasy, fictional. It boggles the mind that it all actually happened.
Yep, I have to agree with you there. And I'm just going to throw in that if you do want to learn more about the expulsion, we know that there's a really great exhibit at the Albert County Museum. So when they open back up for the season, which I think is May long weekend, you should really go down and check it out. Again, like you were just saying, my husband is even raised by an Acadian mother and doesn't know enough about the expulsion. So it's definitely worth going and learning as much as you possibly can. If you can pick up some books along the way, it's a fabulous idea.
Well, it's one of those great things, like if you can read the book as a family, whether again that's, everyone reading it individually or reading it out loud together, if you could do that and then go see, that display, you could go to, the Acadian Museum at University of Moncton.
Right.
You can, there's so many sites around the province that if you, curl up cozy over the rest of this winter, read some of these books, and then plan some of your family day trips this summer to see some of these places, it helps embed those memories and embed those stories and really help you make those connections with this place.
Yeah, absolutely. Something I want to bring back around full circle, you started the show by talking about how you guys listened to the audiobook of the Chocolate River Rescue while you drove around the Petitcodiac River. And something really cool that New Brunswick does, and I know we've brought it up on the show before, but I think it's really important to talk about how amazing our library system is in this province. It's all interconnected. So you could borrow a book in St. John and return it in Moncton, borrow a book in Bathurst and return it in St. John, whatever it may be. But they also have a really cool app. It's called the Libby app, and I have it on my phone. My kids, my kids each have it on their tablet. And you can not only borrow books that way and read them like an e-reader, they also have audiobooks, and they're free.
Yeah.
I love it.
Oh, it's the best.
Yeah,
it's fantastic. Yes. I would say the only thing that would make it better was if there was more of that.
Yes.
There's, it's a weird thing how these systems work, that there are still, it's still a library. There's still only so many people that can take the same audiobook out of the app at the same time. But you can put a hold on things, and you can, get on the list, and you'll get the notification will pop up, your item is ready. And all you have to do is have a library card, which is, free for anyone to get.
Right.
Head to any of the local libraries, and we are really, really lucky that there are so many accessible in this area. If you're in the Greater Moncton area, there's a library in Sussex and Memram Cook and Dieppe and Moncton and Riverview. You don't have to, have access to vehicle. You can get to the places on public transit, get your library card, and then use the app. Then you don't have to worry about being able to travel back and forth as well. It makes it much more accessible in that sense, which is just fantastic.
Yeah. No, it's really neat to even watch your kids devour this app. My youngest, who isn't an avid reader, what did she pull out last night? And she was reading to us. It's Dr. Seuss. It's the polka dot one where he wants to go to the zoo but ends up at the circus. Do you know what I'm talking about? He's like he wants to be a part of the zoo and he can change the color of his spots. Anyway, I can't remember the name of it, but it was so cool to see a book that I had as a kid, and then that's the one she chose to pull up and read. So I will for sure be checking out some of these New Brunswick-based books. The Were-Duck, I'm digging that idea, and I think that my 10-year-old will jump on board with that.
Oh, I think she
really
will.
Fast.
I think she will really be, yes, a Were-Duck fan, because I know just enough of her tastes that I think that will be a perfect fit. And the other thing I was just going to mention, you know, just as a quick aside, it's not about books necessarily, because some people that it's just not going to be your thing. Last night, my daughter and I sat and watched about, at least half an hour's worth of Heritage Minutes. You can find them all online. And and what made me think of it too is one of the newer ones that was done just a few years ago is about the expulsion. And, you know, there were quite a few that touched on things in the Maritimes, but also in general. And they'd been watching them at school. And I was sharing about the fact that years ago, a friend of mine, Rob, who used to work with Dave and I down the hall, we had to drive about 2 hours back from something that we were covering, and that was our drive back. We just went back and forth with Heritage Minutes, like one-liners, to see how many of them we could remember. And we did quite well, and probably a lot of that credit goes to Rob, because he's got just an incredible memory. But it was a lot of fun, and so Claire and I started doing that last night, and we were saying this as my husband came in from work, and he just like jumped right into the conversation and like belted out one of the lines. You both know I cannot read a word. I was like, yes, that's exactly the one we're talking about. So yes, if you need a good dose of Canadian history in a fun way, go look up the Heritage Minutes. You can find them on YouTube, or you can find them directly on I think it's historica.ca, but I could be wrong on that.
It's funny how something that as a kid annoyed the heck out of you, but it's burned into all of our brains. So it obviously did the work, right?
They're fantastic.
I would love to sit down now actually and watch a few of them.
There's so many. I stopped just after about half an hour. I was like, yeah, no, we should probably do something else for a while. But they're there. And they do still air in rotation, which is fantastic. And I loved to hear that they were watching them in school and talking about them, because I think there's so much about that shared moment of how during our childhood, you know, you didn't have YouTube. Everyone watched the same 3 channels on TV. So everyone got the same ads. So everyone knew these. They were these touchstones that, you know, we're missing some of that now. So to see it come across in different ways is really neat. And I think that's also what we need when it comes to books. You know, having kids read something in class is one thing, because it is a shared experience, but it's not quite the same, because then it's work for class or whatever. But I'm like, I want like a book club for all of us in New Brunswick that's like, okay, this is the book that we all need to read, so that we can all have this shared experience of reading it and talking about it at the same time. And I know there have been times when that has happened in different communities, and I'm putting the call out there. I don't have the time to organize another thing, but please, someone, can we have another New Brunswick book club, please?
I mean, I don't know. I find when you live somewhere, you assume there's no other people that, like, there can't possibly be authors in New Brunswick. I live here.
I mean, this is such a tiny sample of
right?
This is like just in this tiny, like, writing for this age group, and that's not even all of them.
Yeah, exactly.
So many options.
It's very cool. So this week when the show goes out, Jenna will have a few links, and I'm just putting her on the spot here.
Oh, of course.
In her blog post, she's going to have some links where you can find these books.
Yes.
And in the meantime, we want to thank you for watching the show. And if you want to start a book club, let us know.
Yes, yeah, and if you have other suggestions, drop them in the comments. And please, yes, we love when people interact like that. We had some great responses from last week's show. So if you haven't listened or watched that, click back and go take care of that and join in the conversation there too. We'll see you next week.